Always, this is the Sportsline Podcast. Thank you so much for checking us out on the CHCH or Parrot Media platforms. I'm Bubba O'Neil. As I always say, this podcast is a space to highlight the outstanding athletes, coaches, broadcasters, and sports programs that hail or got their start in Southern Ontario. Folks, 2025 has shaped up to be a defining year for women's sport across the country. Stand-up performances on the world stage, including this feat from a local up-and-comer, are becoming the norm.
The maiden of Montreal, at just 18 years of age, Victoria Mboko completes a magnificent run to her first tour title.
Burlington's Vicky Mboko, Brooke Henderson, Summer McIntosh on an individual basis. And in team sports, our National Women's Rugby side, along with the NSL and PWHL, have all taken major steps forward. Let's chat with someone who's even more excited than myself about the future of women's sports. She is the CEO for Canadian Women in Sport, Allison Sandmeyer-Graves. Thank you so much for joining us on the Sportsline Podcast.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. What an intro.
Well, it's good. I'm glad you're excited because we're into it right now. What a year it has been for women in sports. But I will start here, I think, for the uninitiated or those that are really not familiar, who or what is Canadian Women in Sport?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this great organization. Canadian Women in Sport has been around for more than 4 decades, really driving forward the mission and the movement of ensuring that every woman and girl in Canada has access and opportunity to participate and lead in sport. So we support with research. We've got to make sure we're making data-based decisions in this country. We support with a lot of advocacy, really, keeping this in the national conversation, and we support with solutions. So we work with sport organizations and leaders to really help them understand what they can do to remove the barriers and to really ensure that those opportunities are coming forward.
When I received your press release, it was labeled a pivotal year for women's sport in Canada. Why?
Well, it feels like we've been saying that every year for several years now, and it keeps being true. And so this year, I think, some of the big breakthroughs, you named some of them already. I mean, the PWHL built on a successful first year with an even better second year. I think putting a lot of those myths and biases to rest that, fans might show up once, but will they keep showing up? I mean, women's hockey is just in such an incredible place with the PWHL. The Northern Super League kicked off, a fully Canadian coast-to-coast experience for soccer fans and just fans of sport in this country, culminating in a super exciting final this fall where the Vancouver Rise took the cup. And then when we look at our national teams and athletes, I mean, Vicky Mboko, what a breakthrough for her, rugby capturing Canada's attention, and millions more stories all the way down to the grassroots across sport, giving us so many things to cheer for, but so many indicators of progress as well on a long journey to close the gap for women and girls in sport.
Do you feel like that media is doing a better job of, introducing and telling these stories, showing games on television of those leagues that you just spoke about?
Yes and no. Let's give credit where credit is due. Certainly, we are seeing a lot more women's sport on our media, on our whatever feed you're on, but also on our broadcast networks. Certainly that having the professional women's sport in this country is the difference maker there, and the deals that they've done with TSN and others to get their product in Canadian homes in front of Canadian audiences, that is a game changer. We know for sure. Is it where it needs to be? Is it where it could be? Absolutely not. We know that Canadians love women's sports. A year ago, before the first PWHL puck even dropped, we had 2 in 3 Canadians say that they were fans of women's sports. And that number has certainly gone up. So the demand is there. Media is catching up to it.
I do want to run through a couple of the names that you just went through in terms of an individual basis that sort of I think became fan favorites for many sport fans in this country. And we'll start with Vicky Mboko, who I think is just an incredible story right here from our hood. And that she started out in the ITF, won 5 of 6 tournaments, and then became the sweetheart in Paris at the French Open after reaching the 3rd round. And then it just exploded from there.
Yeah, it's such a special story when someone succeeds here at home and around the world. I think Canadians know that we have just incredible athletic talent in this country. I think we're also sometimes a little bit surprised when we break through internationally. But Canadian women do that time and time again. And it's so exciting to see a fresh face like Victoria's on the scene, making waves, hopefully closing those big sponsorship deals as well, because we know it's expensive to be a high performance athlete, traveling around the world to these competitions. And unfortunately, women pull in just a fraction of what men do in terms of sponsorships, but she's got a great story. She's a great Canadian. I think she's someone that people can get behind and are getting behind in a really big way. And we hope we see a lot more of her in the years to come.
Well, she just received the key to the city of Burlington, which I'm still scrapping for. So, good for her.
There's a lot of competition for that.
The competition is thick, that is for sure. But what a year for Vicky. I mean, starting the ratings out at like 333 at this time last year, and now number 18 in the world as our top Canadian women's tennis player. Now, we talk about just complete domination, and Summer McIntosh, like, whoa, 4 golds, 1 bronze medal at the Worlds, and peaking. You talk about the worldwide recognition that everyone, and I love it when our American friends are saying she's the best in the world.
Yeah, she's been dominant for so long now, and that is a really impressive feat. The pool talent is deep in swimming. Canadian women, the roster is just absolutely incredible. And the fact that she continues to come out on top is thrilling. There are hopefully some Olympics ahead for her in, LA that's coming up next for swimming. And so we hope that we have the opportunity to cheer for her for a long time to come. And certainly she is inspiring girls to get into the pool in their communities, to act like Summer and really go for it.
It's amazing because we had such success at the Olympics and the Worlds with the likes of Penny Oleksiak, who's kind of going through some stuff right now. But Penny Oleksiak is just, I might change that again. Summer McIntosh is just taking it to a whole new level. And there's no doubt that Penny's, let's say, Olympic records are probably going to be threatened.
Yeah, I think that's the exciting thing about sport. It's the exciting thing certainly about these international records is that someone is always coming to take them over and to set those new records, those new times. And so, I think if you're a holder of one of those records, you hope it stands for a little while. But it's good for sport and it's good for Canada if we've constantly got this pipeline of talent coming up, ready to take things to the next level. Wouldn't it be amazing, if it was Canadians breaking Canadian held international records, in succession? That just speaks to the investment that's happening in this country. It speaks to the quality of the coaching, the quality of the athletes, and overall our national team programs.
I'm going to gamble that if I walked in a mall and I asked 50 people, who's won the most golf tournaments, as a Canadian on the worldwide stage, and most people would probably say, Mike Weir, and there's a couple of other assorted men that would come to name for a lot of people. But what people need to know is that Brooke Henderson has won 14 LPGA tournaments. That's 14 times where she's finished on top. And then this year becomes the second woman after breaking a long, 56 or 7-year streak back in 2018. She wins the CPKC Women's National Open for a second time in Mississauga in stunning fashion. What a year.
Yeah. I think it tells you something also about Brooke that she's so humble, and such a role model for so many girls. There's so many girls and women, and let's just say, let's forget gender for a second. So many golfers, so many Canadians who look up to her, and I'm sure more than Canadians at this point, given her record. But she's so humble in the way that she goes about it, and frankly, I think that this is where the media has some work to do. Is like, let's tell her story more. She deserves to have her story heard. Canadians will benefit so much from hearing more about her. But yeah, it gets real quiet in between those tournaments, right? Where we sort of, our attention drifts off to other things. But she's one that deserves the limelight. And again, these are the stories that I think Canadians want to hear more.
What I appreciate about her is that she constantly talks about wanting to represent her country on the worldwide stage, not only when she's on the LPGA, but possible Olympic tournaments as well, too.
Mm-hmm. Canadians shine on the world stage when it comes to the Olympics. It feels like every Olympics that, whether it's summer or winter, in the first week, I start getting phone calls saying, wow, our women are crushing it. Why is that? What can we expect? What does this mean for girls in our country and signing up for these sports and staying in these sports? It really is the same story every single time, because we do have such incredible talent in this country. I'd like to see us invest more in it, certainly on the women's side. We take a lot for granted in our country that we're going to have these successes and we're going to have this continuous flow of athletes. Let's celebrate the athletes that are there, but let's also look behind them and say, what are we doing to support the next generation coming up?
It's always special when we can celebrate an individual victory or an accomplishment, as we just talked about 3 women that have done incredible things in 2015. But when I think for the big scale, for the major factors to happen in women's sport, you need investment, you need leagues in this country, at least teams to be playing in this country for, I think, long-lasting development. And if we start with hockey, obviously, we celebrate the Canadian women's hockey team, but to have a domestic league where teams in Canada, like the PWHL, takes things to a whole new level. Am I not correct in saying that?
Oh, without a doubt. From a business impact, absolutely. Having these teams and leagues playing consistently in market is the difference maker in terms of growing the market, in terms of growing the business opportunities in women's professional sport in this country. I mean, we talked about Vicky, we've talked about Brooke. They are playing in leagues that have an international footprint, and we do have tournaments here in Canada, which is amazing that investment is happening here, right here in Canada. When we look beyond those sports, though, we need more presence, more consistently in this country. And certainly when the hockey players, they held out for a long time to have the kind of league that they wanted to play in, that they really feel merited the talent, that was going to be sustainable, that was going to have that long-term business success. But behind that, and as part of that, we always know that there's tremendous purpose, social purpose, in having these teams and leagues here in Canada. We know it's going to uplift women's sport overall. It's going to drive greater value, greater respect for women's sport, period. And that is going to make a difference for the culture and the ecosystem for every girl coming up now. There are girls, again, forget gender, girls for sure, but there are kids that are going to grow up in this country that will have never known Canada without a professional women's hockey league. That is a game changer for the athletes playing in that league right now, but for Canada.
When we look at the PWHL, and we saw on the board there a couple of moments ago, I mean, expansion into Vancouver, attendance hitting all-time highs. And what I like about some of the things that the PWHL are doing outside of the games, it's little things like a brand campaign to attract kids. They've added, what I was really impressed with, what I see, a VP of people and culture, getting into the communities to get for young women to play hockey. And I think that's important.
It absolutely is. I would say for a couple of reasons. From a business perspective, what the research shows is that kids who are playing hockey are the fans. You want to grow your fan base, and connecting with kids in their communities, showing support for what they're doing, as well as providing them these role models on an ongoing basis. That's going to make a huge difference. But we also know that there's always something bigger at stake when we're talking about women's sport, given how many barriers there have been to girls playing sport, how many barriers there have been to women coaching and leading in sport as well. The efforts of these teams to help break down those barriers can go a long way to improving outcomes for girls in our communities. And again, it also creates that nice pipeline of talent. They've got to replenish those teams, all those sports scientists, all of those coaches, folks involved in their organizations. And so what I really appreciate is they're looking to their own communities, to their own backyards, if you will, and saying, let's invest here to make the sports system better for girls. And, oh yeah, we're also going to benefit.
And there's no doubt about that. I'm in my late 50s, and I should know to never say never, but I would have gambled or bet or said to someone, there will never be a domestic women's soccer league in this country. Well, Diana Matheson's proved me wrong. The Northern Super League, what an inaugural year it's been.
Truly, they had a lot of wood to chop to get that league off the ground. I think some of us have had the benefit of watching the documentary that chronicled the development of that league. It's called The Pitch. It's now available on YouTube, so I encourage people to check it out. What a story. I mean, what they had to overcome to get those first games on the field is absolutely remarkable. And I think even Diana Matheson would say, I really hoped someone else would do this. But, here it is falling to me, and I'm going to do it. They had an amazing first season. It was very ambitious. Canada is a big country, big travel costs, etc. But they launched from coast to coast, purely Canadian domestic league. They're already in contention for one of the top leagues in the world for women's soccer. And to go to a game, I mean, so much fun. The fandom is, there, and it's rising. I think that there's a lot to look forward to in that space. They've got a lot of work to do, but boy, did the fans ever come out. We need corporate Canada to get behind it. We need generally behind women's sport, certainly in the NSL. And we hope the government gets behind it as well and invests in this as a powerful economic driver in our country.
I mean, I'm a big soccer fan, but the level of play was outstanding. We did see there 148 players, 101 were Canadian, but you're attracting some outstanding international talent to want to come and play here. Women are getting paid a $50,000 minimum salary in a first-year league. That blows me away. But that's all working out, and I think that's part of the attraction. I think for the players, on top of wanting to play for their country, and as we talked about before, an opportunity maybe to open some eyes to the national team as well, too. Now, speaking of national team, men, women, regardless, this was my favorite story of the year, of all things, because they didn't get the love, because they don't have the finances, they don't receive the finances because they're technically amateur status. But what the Canadian women's rugby team did in the 15 squad in the World Cup and knocking off some of the big daddies and mamas in that tournament and reaching the final, I think that was just an incredible accomplishment.
Oh, it absolutely was. As you allude to, the story of how they got there with $1 million crowdfunding campaign. Oh. True underdogs. And of course, Canada's been a contender in rugby for a number of years now. They've really been up there. But when you look internationally, when you look at the countries and the teams that they're up against, the level of investment that's going into those programs, it really is staggering, the delta between what Canada is able to do versus those folks in terms of support. And Canada's frankly punching above its weight in that sense. We generally do. That is one of our strengths. But it really speaks to, what's possible when you invest. And so I think that just can't be underscored enough. And yes, we want to see more money from government for our national programs. The core funding for programs has not gone up in years and years and years now. It appears now might not be the time when we're in the middle of a trade war, but it also speaks to the power of everyday Canadians to get behind these teams as well, and to show their support and their passion for what Canada can accomplish when we all rally behind these teams. So I would encourage folks, as you're looking at your year-end giving, think about sport as one of the places that you can invest those donations.
As we look forward to 2026, what would you, as a CEO of Canadian Women in Sport, like to see? If it doesn't start in 2026, that we're looking to bridge towards to?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's some stuff that's coming that we know is going to be exciting. So we absolutely know, the Olympics are going to give us so much to cheer for. I'm really keen to see Canada and Canadian athletes shine on that stage. Fingers crossed that the WNBA and their players can iron things out and get a new agreement in place so that we can see the Toronto Tempo kick off on schedule. The WNBA's first international expansion team, I think, rightfully in Canada. So there's already things in the calendar that we can cheer for. I think we can expect more surprise and delight, if you will, from Canadian women athletes who just continue to thrive on that scene. But I want to also turn our attention to the grassroots, because so many people listening are, their parents, their grandparents, they have people in their lives, girls in their lives that they care about, who for them, sport can be a vehicle to unlocking this amazing future for themselves academically, in their careers, in their communities. And so what really thrills me is the level of effort that we see in our community partners, changing policies, getting more women into leadership roles, learning how to be the best coaches that they can be for the girls in their programs, really working hard to create spaces that feel safer and more welcoming and inclusive for girls in their communities. We want to see more stories about that sort of thing. We're going to be part of that storytelling ourselves because we get to see so much of it, but really continuing to champion girls in our communities. So when they get this inspiration from these incredibly talented athletes on the global stage and in these major markets across Canada, they have somewhere to act on that inspiration, somewhere that feels really good for them and that keeps them playing as long as possible. So I'm really hoping that we can all put our shoulder to that proverbial wheel and really push that forward.
It's an outstanding outlook and hopes and dreams for 2026, which I think are certainly attainable and are within reach. You did bring up the Tempo. I actually left them out because that is to come. But there's a lot of excitement. And what I think thrills me about the Tempo, for whatever reason, is that there is a huge diversity sort of trend with the Tempo. And on top of that, too, we talk about investment. There is a massive minority ownership group that are behind the Tempo. I think this is going to be a huge hit.
Oh, without a doubt. First of all, the WNBA, I know they're going through their labor situation right now. And again, I can't imagine a scenario where they don't come through that and resume playing and continue on their trajectory. But it's been a rocket ship of a league. It's seen so much growth. Obviously, you've got superstars like Caitlin Clark in there, but you've got such depth, so much to cheer for. And now we get our own team, and we've had the opportunity to have 2 exhibition games and a regular season game, or preseason, I think it was. And Canadian fans show up. They love it. Canada has such a great tradition of women's basketball, such a great tradition of basketball, period. Canada now has a team where people from coast to coast can cheer from them. And we don't even have a game playing yet, but the fan experience is just so much fun. And so they're doing a great job in the build-up of building that fandom, of engaging those fans. You know, you can just imagine what it's going to be when there's a team on the court that we can cheer for. And I think, you know, again, we're just at the beginning. Imagine where we're going to be in 5 and 10 years.
There's no doubt about that. Yeah, 2 games, regular season games being played in Montreal, 2 regular season games being played in Vancouver as well, too. They're spreading their seed. Hopefully we get a couple of games here in Hamilton as well, too. We'd like to see that, too, in our brand new TD arena, which would be just fantastic, then the Coliseum. So anyway, you know, 2026, I think, is going to be an outstanding year. I think women in sports, boy, just in my lifetime, where it's come from, where I think it's going, are incredible things. And that happens because of people like yourself, Allison. Keep working hard. No doubt the message is being heard. It's being appreciated as well, too. And I certainly appreciate the work that you do. And, you know, we're a big fan of what you do. Thanks for joining us on the Sportsline Podcast.
Thanks so much.
It's been great chatting with you as well. Hey, that's the Sportsline Podcast for the day. And if you've just seen and heard, we love talking sports. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote the Sportsline Podcast you want to hear from you, please hit that thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. And if you have something to say, we do appreciate your comments. For the outstanding people that make the Sportsline Podcast possible, thank you so very much. And we'll see you real soon.